As a GEPF member, one of the most important financial decisions you would have to make is whether you should retire or resign. Now, what makes this decision so challenging for most members, and perhaps you're feeling the same way too, is just the lack of proper information. There's so much of rumors around GEPF. There's a lot of rumors around resignation, tax, investing, and perhaps you're feeling uncertain exactly where to get started. Now, in this video, I'm guiding you on what needs to be your first step. And it's an easy first step because it cuts out the rumors and it's something that you can do on your own. Now, what is the secret? The secret is your lump sum gratuity, if you opt to retire, could be significantly less than your 1/3 resignation value. Now, I know this sounds alarming. In fact, every member that I share the secret with also finds it to be untrue. But in this video, I'm showing you the calculations so that you can add on to this later on. Now, this is it. This is a starting point for you, right? So this is the starting point. It allows you to build on this information as we go along. So let's get started. The first thing that I want you to do is follow on the GEPF statement that I'm going to show with you. And then after, we'll do the calculation on your own. Now, notice on this GEPF statement, which will be the same for you as well, the top of the GEPF statement has the date. Now, you want to get this date to be as close as possible to when you are resigning. Meaning, if you are resigning in 6 months' time, you want to get an estimate of your benefits as at that date that you actually are leaving. And the reason for this is it allows you to compare the figures more accurately. I'll explain it shortly when we move over to the iPad. Now, what you're looking at here, we're talking about the lump sum gratuity. Notice in this case, the lump sum gratuity for this member is $1,257,000. Now, you can pause the video if you want to do the calculation on your own, but I'll bring up a calculator as well to help you along on the exercise. And then notice that the resignation benefit sits at $5,119,863. So the calculation is simple, right? If you are getting a 1/3 value on retirement, it should equal to 1/3 of your resignation benefit. So all we're doing is we're taking the 5.1 million rand here, we're punching this into a calculator, and we're dividing that by 3. So I'll punch in the exact figure for you. You can follow along with the calculator. Now, just a reminder, follow along just to get the understanding of this exercise in this video, and then play it again and do the exercise again on your own GEPF statement so that you get to confirm this for yourself. So in this case, the member's value is 5.1 million. I'm putting the exact figure in. And to get a 1/3 value here, I'm merely dividing this figure by 3. So when we divide it by 3, you can see this is the amount that the member should be getting. I'll pop this onto the iPad and I'll show you this as we go along. So this total here should be 1,706,621. Now, if we had to compare that, we'll head back onto the GEPF member statement. We compare that to the resignation value, pardon me, the retirement value. You can see if the member had to retire, the gratuity here sits at 1,257,641. So what's the difference, right? The difference is this, and I'll pop up on a calculator. So this is the resignation value. This is the 1/3 value that the member should be receiving. I'm going to minus the amount that is sitting inside of the lump sum gratuity, 641, which means there's a shortfall here. And that shortfall is 448,980. So let's head over to the iPad and I'm going to illustrate this for you. Right? So notice what's taking place. The member should be entitled to receiving a full 1/3 benefit, meaning we know that in the event of one opting to retire, you might have heard that you're getting a 1/3 benefit. But if you look carefully, if you look closely at your statement, GEPF is not calling it a 1/3, they're calling it a lump sum gratuity. They're not saying 1/3, right? So how would this take place? When you have, upon resignation, you are entitled to access a 1/3 value, and this is the 1.7 million. I'll guide you on that step just now, but this is all that you're going to do on your end in order to confirm it. You're going to take your GEPF statement, look at your resignation value, divide your resignation value by 3. When you divide it by 3, that's just to calculate the 1/3. And then you're going to compare it against what your lump sum gratuity is. When you compare it against lump sum gratuity, you can then calculate if there is a shortfall. Now, in this member's case, it's 448,980 rand. That's the shortfall. Meaning if this member opts to retire, this is how much this member is going to lose on day 1. Now, this is not saying that you're going to have to, that you should be resigning, But this is just the foundation for you, right? It's the foundation for you to get more information in order to compare these options a lot more closely. What's nice about this, what I like about this, is it cuts out the rumors, right? You're able to do this calculation for yourself using your own GEPF statement. Now, how do you know for sure that you're going to get a 1/3 benefit if you had to resign? Let's follow along on the process, right? So I'll guide you. First off, remember you have your capital that's sitting within GEPF. Now, if you're opting to resign, you're basically transferring these funds to an approved fund. Now, this is one option, transferring it to an approved fund. You could, if you wanted to, take this out in cash. Now, if you wanted to take this out in cash, what you've got to be extremely mindful of is tax. There's a significant amount of tax that's going to be paid here because you're drawing out this money in cash, especially if your resignation value is significant, right? Because the way in which our tax system works, it's on a sliding scale. The more amount that you are drawing out in cash, the more amount you're going to pay in tax. So in this example, we're moving over funds from GEPF to the approved fund. When you move it over to the approved fund then cuts out the rules of GEPF, right? So some of the rules of GEPF, meaning, remember, GEPF is a defined benefit fund. So when they're calculating the benefits, the formula is not dividing your resignation value by 3. There's a different formula that they use to calculate the lump sum gratuity, which means, and this is the reason why it's not going to equal a 1/3 value, right? Whereas when you move money away from GEPF into an approved fund, this is the first step. From the approved fund, you're now following the rules of an insurance company. Now notice what I've done. I'm not speaking about which insurance company. I'm not speaking about which approved fund, right? You want to first make sure that you're choosing the right approved fund. If maybe you've heard of a preservation fund, it's just one option. You want to compare that very carefully. And it doesn't matter the insurance company because all of them have approved funds, right? Once it sits in the approved fund, you now work according to the rules of an insurance company, and they allow you to take 1/3 in cash. See? But when the 1/3 is being calculated, it's now straightforward, right? So that calculation is easy. It's just whatever sits inside your approved fund, it's divided by 3, and that's how they determine the 1/3. So this is the reason why at the start of the video, when I did the calculation for you on the resignation benefit, I took the resignation benefit and I divided it by 3 in order to get that. Now, I know this might be a surprise to you, and one of the things that's running through your mind is, what happens to this money? So if GEPF is not paying a full 1/3 out, what's taking place with this money? Well, I think you already know the answer. The money sits within GEPF. Now, all sorts of things could be used for this, right? It could be used towards paying for your income for the first few years, meaning if you are earning a set income, GEPF doesn't really have to touch the balance of your capital. They could use these funds in order to provide for that income. It could be used for all sorts of things, but I like to refer to this as what I call the cost of retirement. The cost of retirement, meaning if this member opts to retire, this member is losing 448,980. Same on your end. You're going to calculate your own cost of retirement. Now, why this is important is you might be under the impression that there's no cost if you had to retire because GEPF does not disclose the fees. But then you want to analyze, okay, if that's the case, how is GEPF making a profit from it? Now, when you look at it in all of this detail, you'll start to see things differently. Again, this is just one element to compare. If you're joining my masterclass, I'll guide you on a few more elements in order to be able to make the most informed decision, again, whether you should retire or resign. And there's one other key aspect that I want you to be mindful of when you're doing this calculation. Notice that and we head over to the benefit statement here again. Notice that it says your normal retirement is estimated and it has a point number 9 next to it. Now, all this means is when they calculate this, right? And we'll look at the end here where it says point number 9. You'll notice that it says normal retirement age is defined at age 60. These benefit calculations are estimated and assume that you will retire at age 60. What that means is, let's assume that you're not 60 now. The gratuity that you're seeing there is calculated in advance. It's calculated to age 60, meaning it's a future value. It's not the current value. And that's important, right? If you are older than 60, that means the benefits are now calculated to age 65. See? It also goes on further to say that the benefits will be adjusted if you happen to leave earlier. Now, I'm going to explain this on the iPad so that you can understand this. It's one key element because when you're doing the calculation, in order to get it done properly, you want to get this step right. So what GEPF is saying, I'm going to use an example. Let's say you are 55 right now. It's saying that when they're calculating the lump sum benefit gratuity as well as the income on retirement, they're calculating that at age 60. Right? The figure that is accurate now is your resignation benefit. So the resignation benefit is accurate on your statement. That's as at the date that you draw on the statement. But your gratuity is calculated to age 60 or 65, right? Depending on your age. So if the gratuity is calculated at age 60, let's use my example here. If your gratuity is calculated to age 60, notice your resignation benefit is only at age 55. What it means for you is that in time to come, your resignation benefit is going to be a lot higher. So at the time when you get to 60, the resignation value is going to be a lot higher. The reason why resignation value is going to increase is that value is always accurate. It's as at the date of your statement, you see. It's estimated as at that date. It will always be increasing because if you leave in a future point, they'll give you an estimate at that point in time in the future. But when it comes to calculating the gratuity, GEPF by default calculates it to age 60. This is the reason why you might have heard if members had to leave before 60, they get charged a penalty. So this video has a lot of information for you. It's the grounding video for you. It's something that you can use to build onto, right? Now, from here, I want you to watch the video again, but do the calculation using your own GEPF statement so that you can see for yourself. Starting point, remember, contact GEPF and request a statement as at the time that you want to leave, right? So if you're leaving in 6 months' time, request from GEPF a statement as at 6 months from now. And the reason that you're doing that is that gives you a proper reflection of your resignation value. And then the exercise is very easy. You're simply taking whatever resignation value is, you're dividing that figure by 3, and that's going to give you what your true 1/3 value is. You can then compare your true 1/3 value against your lump sum gratuity, and you're going to calculate what the shortfall is, right? Now, post a comment in the video below to share with me if this is something that you knew or something that is brand new to you. And also, what are your thoughts on this concept, right, of not being able to get the full 1/3 value? Now, if you've not already done so, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel so that you're able to get new videos as soon as we produce them, as well as learn more of the secrets in order to compare and make that most important decision, which is, again, whether you should retire or resign. If you found this video helpful, click a thumbs up so I know I'm on track and delivering the kind of value that I want for you. And I'll see you on the next video.